Welcome to my channel. If you'd like to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe. I hope it helps you sleep. Sleep tight. The day the boat reached the American coast, the air was different, heavy, like it had been holding its breath just for them. Salt clung to their clothes, their hair, their skin, but they were no longer concerned with discomfort. The journey, part been long and harrowing, their boat tossed on angry waves like a toy in a cruel child's bath. But now, there it was, America. Not in the dream-shaped way they had pictured it, golden and clean and waiting with open arms, but strange, quiet, and indifferent. Its distant skyline cloaked in fog. Jamal stood near the bow, gripping the edge, above the boat, his knuckles white with the strength of hope. Beside him, his little sister Zaynab clutched the soaked backpack that held everything they owned. Some old photos, a packet of dates from their mother, and a single pair of shoes with holes at the toes. Their father was gone, lost in the storm 2 nights earlier, swallowed by the sea when he tried to steady the boat for everyone else. One moment he had been there, teeth clenched, voice calm, and the next, the darkness had taken him. Jamal hadn't screamed, he hadn't cried. He had just stared at the spot in the water where his father had vanished. A place now blank and soulless, as if the ocean had never known him. The boat shuddered as it scraped against a dock, bringing them to a place that smelled of oil and rust. No one rushed to welcome them. There were no flags, no lights, no officials asking questions with open clipboards and tight smiles. Instead, there were abandoned crates and the cold bark of seagulls circling above. Like they knew these people were not welcome here. The passengers, mostly children and women now, shuffled off the boat like ghosts waking from a long sleep. Some clutched each others staggered silently, eyes wide with confusion, as if this land looked nothing like the one they had heard about in hushed voices late at night back home. Jamal helped Zaynab down, holding her hand tightly. His legs felt weak, like they hadn't walked in years. He was only 14, but the look in his eyes had aged into something ancient, carved by things no child should know. A man was waiting at the end of the dock. He was tall, rough-faced, with skin tanned by years under an unforgiving sun. He wore a uniform that looked important, but his eyes were empty of warmth. He looked at them like they were numbers, not people. When he spoke, it was fast and sharp, words laced with irritation. No one answered. They didn't understand. Another man stepped forward, younger, with a kind of reluctant sympathy in his face. He spoke their language, or at least enough to make them understand they were being moved, not welcomed, not rescued, just processed, herded, like animals. The group was led down a narrow path, flanked by chain-link fences, and patrolled by silent guards. Zaynab looked up at Jamal, her eyes pleading, "Where are we going?" She whispered, he didn't know. He only squeezed her hand tighter. They were taken to a large metal building, with flickering lights and rows of gray chairs that smelled like sweat and cleaning fluid. There was no food. Just a warm bottle of water passed from person to person, like a holy relic. An old woman began to cry softly in the corner. A toddler screamed until his voice turned hoarse. A baby wailed somewhere behind a column, his mother rocking him with shaking arms. Time seemed to stretch in that place, thick and slow, like cold honey. No one told them how long they'd be there. Hours passed, maybe days. Some slept cold on the floor. Others sat awake, eyes hollow, as if afraid sleep would take them somewhere worse. That night Jamal dreamed of his father's voice, deep and firm, telling him that courage was not the absence of fear, but the strength to keep walking through it. He woke up gasping. Zaynab pressed against his chest, her small body trembling. He wanted to tell her it would be okay. He wanted to believe it himself. But all he could do was brush the hair from her face and whisper, "We're still together. That's what matters." Outside, rain began to fall. In a soft, steady rhythm, drumming against the metal roof like fingers tapping out a warning. The storm was over, but the hard part hadn't even begun. Just as the silence of the shelter settled into a dead calm, the door creaked open. A woman entered, tall, sharply dressed, her heels clicking across the cement floor like a ticking clock. She didn't smile, but her presence broke something in the stillness. The presence broke something in the stillness. She scanned the room with calculating eyes and pointed at Jamal and Zaynab. A guard approached them, motioning for them to follow. Confused and afraid, they stood. Zaynab gripped Jamal's shirt. He held her close. No one told them where they were going. No one told them where they were going. No one told them why. And as they walked toward the unknown, the others watched them go in silence, eyes full of quiet prayers and desperate envy. Something was changing. Jamal could feel it. Whatever waited beyond that next door might be another trial, another test of their endurance, or it might be the first breath of the future they had risked everything for. He didn't know, but he walked forward anyway, his sister beside him, both of them still soaked in the memory of the sea. The hallway they were led through seemed to stretch forever, its pale walls smeared with scuff marks, and a humming light above that flickered every few seconds, as though unsure if it wanted to stay alive. Jamal's heart thudded in his chest. With every step, Zaynab clung to his side, her eyes darting nervously at the uniformed man walking just behind them. No words were spoken, only the sound of the woman's heels ahead of them. Sharp, deliberate, unforgiving, each step echoed off the narrow corridor like a judge's guffaw, a rhythm of judgment that made them feel more like criminals than refugees. When they finally stopped, the woman turned a key and opened a metal door that let out a low groan as it swung inward. The room inside was small, too clean, and unnaturally quiet. No windows, just a metal table with two plastic chairs. The woman gestured toward them to sit. Jamal obeyed slowly, pulling Zaynab into the seat beside him. His hands trembled slightly, but he kept his face still. They were used to strangers with sharp voices and cold hands. But this woman was different, quiet, methodical, like she didn't need to raise her voice to control her room. She placed a folder on the table and opened it, flipping through papers that Jamal couldn't see from where he sat. Then she looked up, her eyes unreadable. She asked their names, their ages, where they came from, how they got here. The questions came slowly, one at a time, like stones being laid into a path they couldn't see. Jamal all answered in careful, broken English, his voice steady. He told her about Syria, the war, the city where they once lived, the explosion that took their home, the night they escaped in the back of a truck with strangers, the months spent in a refugee camp in Turkey, the terrifying sea crossing. When he mentioned his father, his voice cracked. Zaynab stared down at the table, her lips pressed tightly together, as if silence could protect the truth from hurting any more than it already had. The woman said nothing at first. She just listened, taking notes in sharp, neat handwriting. But then came the questions that didn't feel like questions anymore, ones that sounded more like tests. Why didn't your mother come? How do we know he was your father? Are you sure you're really brother and sister? Jamal felt the ground shift beneath him. These weren't questions of safety or concern. They were traps, carefully laid to catch lies that didn't exist. He answered again, calmly, but with a steel in his voice this time. Zaynab was only 9. She didn't understand the weight of suspicion hanging in the air. But Jamal did. He could feel it pressing down on his shoulders, like wet sand. The woman paused, then leaned forward just slightly. "You're very brave," she said, almost too softly to believe it was real. "But this is complicated. America is full. Her words were smooth and emotionless, yet they landed like stones in Jamal's gut. Full. What did that mean? Wasn't this the land they had dreamed about? The one where you were allowed to rebuild your life? The room seemed to shrink around them. Zaynab looked up at Jamal, her eyes wide and scared. He couldn't explain this to her. Couldn't make her understand the cruel paradox of surviving the worst things, only to be told there might be no place left for you in the world you suffered to reach. The woman stood and closed the folder with Bershap snap. You'll stay in the facility for a few more days. We'll decide what happens after that. She turned to leave, but paused in the doorway. You did nothing wrong. But not everyone who comes gets to stay. Do you understand? Then she was gone, and the door clicked shut behind her with a finality that made Zaynab flinch. Jamal sat in silence for a long time, staring at the door. The room felt colder now. He didn't know what kind of place this was, any more a waiting room, a prison, a purgatory. He didn't know what they had to prove, or to whom. He only knew that he would not let them take his sister from him. Not after everything. He would protect her, no matter what it took. Later that night, back in the shelter, Jamal lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Zaynab slept beside him, coiled into his side. Her breath steady at last, but his mind ran wild with fear. What if they separated them? What if they sent her somewhere else? What if they sent them both back? He thought of their father, again his last words, before the sea had pulled him under, take care of her. You're the man now. He had never wanted that title. But now, it was all he had. The facility remained quiet, but something had changed. Whispers moved through the halls, rumors of deportations, of children disappearing in the night, of papers lost or stolen, of mistakes that could not be undone. Jamal began watching everything, memorized. Losing routes, faces, exits. He needed a plan just in case. And deep down, he began to understand something terrible. This land they had reached, this place they had dreamed of, did not promise safety. It promised uncertainty, and still, even with fear gnawing at his ribs, he held Zaynab close, humming softly under his breath. A lullaby from when they were small. He would not give in to fear. Not yet. He would wait, he would watch. And when the time came, he would act. The days inside the facility blurred together like a slow turning wheel. Round and round, each moment a copy of the one before it. The same tasteless food trays, the same whispered rumors from children too young to carry such fear in their bones. Jamal counted the minutes by the flicker of the overhead lights, the soft buzz of electricity that never stopped. Zaynab had stopped asking questions. She followed him everywhere now, like a shadow stitched to his heels. Her small face, always tilted upward, always searching his eyes for signs of safety. But he had none to give, not really. He gave her routines, instead washing her hair every other day with cold water from a cracked faucet, folding her clothes at night, helping her read the only book they'd been given, a torn copy of Charlotte's Web. It wasn't their language, but the kindness in the story made her smile, and that was enough for him. Then came the night the door didn't lock behind the last guard. It was a small thing, easily missed. But Jamal noticed, he always noticed. The guard had been distracted, maybe, or too tired to check the latch. The door clicked, but the bolt didn't slide. And her silence settled once again over the dimly lit dormitory. Jamal sat up, heart pounding. He moved slowly, careful not to wake Zaynab. He pressed his fingers against the door. It creaked slightly under his touch, but it opened, just a crack, enough to see the hallway empty and still. A breathless space between control and opportunity, something, put in him shifted then. That old instinct what his father used to call the fire beneath fear. It was the voice that had told them when to run from the falling buildings, when to lie still under debris, when to sneak across borders in the back of strangers' trucks. That voice whispered now. Go. He pulled the thin blanket tighter around Zaynab's sleeping form and kissed her for her. He would only be gone a minute. He had to see what was beyond the hallway, had to know what kind of place held them so tightly. He slipped through the door, closing it gently behind him. The corridor, blue-eyes dim and colder than he expected. Far off, the murmur of a television echoed through the wall's news program, maybe its voice garbled and unfamiliar. Jamal moved with slow, careful steps. Every corner seemed to stretch like a dream, bending shadows around him. He passed doors with codes etched into metal plates, rooms filled with files, flickering monitors. Then, at the far end of the hall, he saw a door, ajar with light spilling through it. Inside was a man, not a guard, not someone official. He wore no uniform, just a wrinkled shirt, and a tie loosened round his neck. He was sitting at a desk, sipping coffee, and staring at a screen. On it were photos. Rows of faces, each with notes beneath them. Jamar's breath caught in his throat as he recognized one, Zaynab. Her face stared back at him from the screen. Beneath it, a line of text he couldn't fully understand. But it was enough. Placement candidate category B, consider separation. His knees nearly buckled. He didn't know what the categories meant, didn't care. The word separation burned through his mind like fire. He was about to step back when the man turned slightly, revealing another monitor. Jamal blinked. It showed a live camera feed off the dormitory, their room. He could see himself kissing Zaynab's head, leaving her wrapped in blankets. The footage was barely second-zoned. They were being watched, every move, every whisper. He was still staring at the screen when a sudden noise behind him made him spin. The door creaked. A figure stepped inside. It was the younger man who had translated for them on the doctor, one with eyes that almost showed kindness. His name was Daniel. Jamal remembered. Daniel raised his hands in a quiet, calm gesture. Don't run, he said softly, in Arabic. I know why you're here. Jamal didn't speak. His eyes flicked toward the monitor, then back to the man. He didn't trust him, not yet. Daniel walked to the desk, turned off the screens, and looked Jamal in the eye. They're moving children to different states, he said. Sometimes, without telling anyone, even siblings, it's not supposed to happen like this, but it does. He paused. You're smart to look, but they'll punish you if they know. Jamal's voice came out rough and low. They want to take her from me. Daniel didn't answer. He didn't have to. There was a silence between them then, sharp and humming like a pulled wire. Finally, Daniel reached into his pocket and handed Jamal a folded piece of paper. If anything happens, he whispered, call this number. It's someone who helps. Not part of this place. Say my name. Jamal took the paper. His fingers shook. You have to go back now, Daniel said, before they noticed. And just like that, the moment was over. The hallway was long again. And Jamal. Footsteps felt heavier than ever as he slipped back into the dormitory. Zaynab had stirred in her sleep, her hand reaching for him even while dreaming. He pulled her clothes. The paper clenched tightly in his palm. That night, Jamal didn't sleep. He stared into the dark. The glow from the hallway, cutting across the floor like a knife. Something had shifted. Now he knew. Now he had proof. And now, more than ever, the fire beneath his fear burned hotter than before. The storm they had survived was not behind them. It was all around them still. Only this time, bit walls and cameras and soft voices that called themselves protectors. Morning in the facility always came without warmth. The lights would buzz to life overhead as if someone far away pressed a switch. Not because it was morning in the world outside, but because here, morning was decided by routine. Jamal sat upright, before the first flicker. His eyes roared from the sleepless night. Zaynab stirred beside him, her face creased with sleep, her mouth moving silently, speaking. To someone in a dream, maybe their father, maybe their mother, maybe to some kind stranger. Rashid imagined would meet them when they arrived. He didn't wake her. Not yet. The piece of paper Daniel had given him was still hidden. Folded tightly inside one of the old socks they kept at the bottom of their shared bag. He had memorized the number 3 times already. But the paper was a kind of lifeline, something real he could hold in a place where everything else slipped through his fingers. He kept looking over his shoulder that morning, expecting the door to burst open. Expecting the guards to grab him, expecting the consequences of last night's discovery to come slamming down on him. But nothing came. The day moved forward like all the others. Gray and quiet and slow. Until a woman with a tablet and a thin smile came to their room. She asked for Zaynab. Only Zaynab. She spoke kindly. But Jamal could see the way her fingers curled around the edge of the tablet. White-knuckled. Rehearsed. Just for a short test, she said. She'll be back in an hour. Jamal stood between them. She doesn't go alone. The woman's smile didn't move. It's just a routine check. Language assessment. Very simple. Jamal looked at Zaynab, who was already reaching for his hand. Her eyes were wide. Her lower lip trembling slightly. No, Jamal said. We stay together. The woman's smile faltered. Then returned. I'll come back later, she said. And back, away. But Jamal knew what this meant. They were running out of time. He packed quickly, quietly, just essentials, the socks, the paper, the dates their mother had given them. The book Zaynab loved, even though she couldn't read every word. He whispered to her to stay close, to follow him, no matter what. She didn't ask why. She just nodded. Her trust complete and terrifying. They slipped out during the meal hour, when the halls filled with muted voices and the shuffling of plastic trays. Jamal led Zaynab past the common area. Through a side door he'd watched the cleaning staff use. It led to a long corridor that bent sharply, narrowing as it reached the back of the facility. He prayed it wouldn't be locked. It wasn't. The air changed instantly. It smelled like rain and soil and freedom. They stepped into the outdoor yard, patch of fenced earth surrounded by barbed wire and cameras. But it was the closest thing to outside they had seen since they arrived. No guards were visible. Jamal scanned the perimeter, searching for weakness. Anything. The fence was tall, impossible to climb with a child. But near the far corner, where a stack of maintenance crates sat half covered by a torn top, he saw something that the wire at the bottom had rusted through. A small hole, barely wide enough for a child, maybe 2. Jamal ran with Zaynab across the yard, hearts pounding. Her small legs struggled to keep up, but he carried her the last stretch. Kneeling beside the hole, he started tearing at the rusted edges, whispering to her, "You go first. On the other side, wait for me. Just a few seconds." She was crying. Now, silently, shaking her head. No, you trust me," he said, holding her face in his hands. "Please," she crawled through. Jamal looked around, still no guards. The world was holding its breath again. He turned to follow her through the opening when a voice boomed behind him. "Hey!" A figure charged from the opposite end of the beard, a guard, radio rays, sprinting. Chima dove through the hole, scraping his arms against the wall. Against the jagged wire, feeling it bite into his skin, tearing his shirt. Zaynab was screaming, pulling at him from the other side. He landed in the brush beyond the fence, rolled onto his side, and grabbed her hand. They ran. Trees surrounded them now, low and damp and green. The air smelled like wet leaves and mud. Jamal didn't know where they were, didn't care. They ran until their legs gave out, collapsing behind a low embankment near a road. He covered Zaynab's mouth gently, as sirens wailed in the distance. Somewhere behind them, the facility was waking up. But here, for one suspended moment, they were outside. Jamal took out the paper, his hands shaking so badly he nearly dropped it. He pulled out the small phone they'd kept hidden at the bottom of the backpack. No SIM. No service, but a miracle that still held power. He dialed the number. It rang once. Twice. Then a voice picked up. He spoke Daniel's name. The voice responded quickly, urgently. "Where are you?" it asked. "Are you safe?" Jamal looked at his sister. Her cheeks streaked with dirt and tears, but her eyes locked on his. For the first time since they'd arrived, he allowed himself to answer, honestly. "No, but we're free." The car arrived under cover of dusk. Its headlights dimmed, tires crunching over gravel like whispers. Jamal held Zaynab close as the vehicle slowed to a stop just beyond the trees where they had been hiding since morning. Cold into the mud, heart speeding faster than time itself. The voice on the phone had promised help, a ride, a safe place where no one asked questions and no one wore uniforms. Jamal had no reason to believe the voice, except that it hadn't threatened him, hadn't spoken like the guards or the case workers or the woman with the tablet. It had spoken like someone who remembered what it meant to be afraid. A woman stepped out of the car. She was middle-aged. Her face kind, lined at the edges with what looked like years of worry and patience. She wore a sweater too big for her, and jeans dusted with earth. Her name was Lena. She didn't ask how they had gotten there. She earned me, opened the back door, and waited, silent. Zaynab hesitated for just a second, and Jamal gently lifted her into the seat. Climbing in beside her, Lena drove without speaking, her eyes flicking to the rearview mirror every few minutes, scanning the road behind them. The world outside the car looked like another planet-wide field. Lonely barns, trees that seemed to lean with the wind. This wasn't the America Jamal had seen in the posters on refugee walls, or in the TV shows they had watched back in the camps. There were no towering cities, no glowing billboards, no crowds of smiling people. Here the land was empty, forgotten, and maybe that was what made it safe. For now, they arrive at a small house nestled between trees. It resolved, wooden, with a porch that sank in the middle, and a chimney that no longer smoked. But it was quiet, and it didn't smell like bleach or fear. Lena led them inside. The living room was warm, with a soft yellow light and mismatched furniture that reminded Jamal of his aunt's house back in Damascus. Before everything had turned to ash, she gave them food, hot soup, thick bread, and water that didn't taste like metal. Zaynab ate slowly at first, then faster, as if her body was just remembering what hunger felt like that night. They slept in a room with 2 mattresses on the floor. Zaynab curled up with her head on Jamal's chest, and for the first time in weeks, he closed his eyes without seeing drowning waves or barbed fences. He dreamed of his father's hands, big and warm, guiding a kite into the wind. Above the old soccer field, the string tugged gently against his palms, and he laughed in the dream until it snapped, and the kite drifted away, leaving only a sky full of silence. But peace, even the brief kind, does not last in places where the past clings like a shadow. The next morning, while Lena was tending to the small garden out back, Jamal noticed something strange. A folder, left half open on the kitchen table. Inside were papers, documents, photographs, lists of names. He didn't mean to snoop. He was looking for a spoon. But the top page caught his eye. It was a report about children. About placement, bull transfers. His heart dropped. He flipped further, panic rising like bile in his throat. The words were blurry with fear. But clear enough, Lena had once worked with a government relocation program. She had access. She had lists. One of them had Zaynab's name on it crossed out. But there he stepped back. The room spun. Zaynab was outside, helping Lena water the dying tomato plants. She was smiling. She had trusted her. Jamal didn't know what to do. When Lena came back inside, he sat stiffly. His hands clenched. She noticed. "You saw the file," she said softly. "It wasn't a question. I used to help screen families." She continued. Her voice slow, tired. "A long time ago. I left when I realized what they were really doing. I saved some of the names. I tried to find the ones I could." She looked at him then. Her eyes wet with truth. "You don't have to trust me. But I didn't bring you here to trap you. I brought you here because I thought, maybe this time, I could do something right." Jamal wanted to believe her. He wanted to believe in someone again. But belief had become a currency too expensive to spend. "I need to know," he said, voice low. "What happens next? What if they find us?" Lena paused. "Then we run again. There are others. Safe networks. I'll get you to them. But Jamal does. One thing you need to decide." She leaned closer. "You can keep running forever. Or we can try to find someone with real power. People who fight this system, not just hide from it." He shook his head. "They won't listen." "They might," she said. "If they hear your story." Jamal looked out the window, at Zaynab, picking up a wilted flower, holding it gently, like it was made of glass. She didn't need to run anymore. She needed to grow. And maybe, just maybe, their story could be more than survival. Maybe it could be a seed for something better. Still, he didn't answer Lena. Not then. That night, as the stars blinked above the old house and the wind rustled the trees like voices in a language he almost remembered, he sat by the window, holding the paper with Daniel's number in one hand. The pages from Lena's folder in the other docked. The fire inside him hadn't gone out. It had only changed color. The next morning brought a silence. Unlike the others. Not empty, not fearful, but loaded, pregnant with choice, with the feeling that something was going to shift. Whether they were ready or not. Jamal had spent the entire night by the window. The moonlight casting long shadows across the wooden floor. His thoughts pacing faster than his body could move. Zaynab slept soundly for once, wrapped in a thick wool blanket, her mouth slightly open. The innocent breath of a child not yet crushed by the next wave of uncertainty. Jamal envied her for that moment of peace. He had no such luxury. His mind was a battlefield. Lena had made coffee by the time the first crack of light touched the treetops. She said nothing when she saw Jamal hadn't slept. She only handed him the mug, warm and bitter. He took it. He still hadn't decided. But the truth was, deep inside, a part of him had already moved. The moment he saw Zaynab smiling again, holding something fragile in her hands, and treating it with care, he realized hiding would never be enough. They couldn't just survive. They had to push back. He didn't want his sister to grow up believing the world was a cage she had to learn to decorate. He wanted her to believe it could be opened, even if it broke him trying. By noon they had left the house. Lena drove them in a different car, this time. Through back roads and dust trails, past miles of emptiness that whispered freedom and danger at the same time. Jamal clutched Zaynab's hand the entire ride. The folder resting in his lap like a bomb he wasn't sure how to defuse. Lena was taking them to someone she trusted, someone who ran a media group that specialized in immigration stories, voices, buried under systems and lies. They didn't promise miracles, but they promised a platform, and sometimes that was enough. They arrived in a city that felt almost like a memory too loud. Too many lights, but strangely comforting. Lena led them through an alleyway, a bestiar case behind a bookstore. Inside was a small office with posters of protests, quotes from freedom fighters, walls lined with monitors and sound equipment. The air smelled like dust and urgency. A man, in his 30s, greeted them. His name was Kareem. He had the tired face of someone who had seen too much and kept going anyway. When he saw Jamal, he nodded, not with pity, but with recognition, like he'd met others just like him, carved from fire and grief. Jamal sat down. Zaynab sat beside him, and he began to speak. He told them everything. From the bomb that split their home to the truck ride through the desert. The refugee camp, where Zaynina got sick and their father gave away his last medicine to save her. The sea, the storm, the way his father vanished into the waves, the processing center, the camera, watching him sleep. The file-marked separation, the escape, the hole in the fence. His voice didn't tremble. It grew stronger, the longer he spoke, until the room felt full of it, like a wind pushing against the very walls. Lena sat quietly, tears in her eyes. Kareem recorded every word, barely blinking. Even Zaynab, small and fragile beside her brother, nodded slowly when asked if it was all true. When Jamal finished, there was a silence so deep it felt like the city outside had vanished. Kareem leaned forward. "This story matters," he said. "And it's not just your story. It's hundreds, thousands. But when someone like you tells it, someone who didn't just survive, but watched and understood. Can't be ignored. We'll publish this, we'll protect your names, and we'll make sure people see what's happening. This could change things." Jamal nodded. But he didn't smile. He didn't want glory, he wanted justice. He wanted Zaynab to sleep without fear. He wanted no other child to be marked for removal because of a form. He didn't trust governments or headlines. But he did believe in stories, the kind that crack through stone. That night, Blina took them to another house, safer, deeper in the network. There were other children there. 2 girls from Guatemala, a boy from Eritrea. They didn't speak the same language, but they played in the yard together like they had known each other all their lives. Jamal sat beneath a tree, watching them. The soft chatter of innocent laughter drifting through the air like music. Later, Kareem sent a message. The first part of their story had been published. Within hours, messages flooded in. Some hateful, yes, but many kind. Strangers offering shelter. Families demanding change. Journalists calling for interviews. Jamal's face, pixelated for protection, were shared across 1,000 screens. His voice they once tried to bury, was now ringing through microphones, screens, boardrooms. He had become the fire, and it was spreading. Still, he remained cautious. He didn't trust hope, not completely. But he welcomed it carefully, like a guest you weren't sure would stay. Because for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel like a ghost. He felt seen, heard, alive. Rain fell the morning they were told their case would be reconsidered. Not the heavy, angry kind that batters windows and reminds you of escape, but the soft, kind, gentle, like the world had paused to breathe. Jamal watched it slide down the glass of the bedroom window, each drop racing another to the edge and vanishing into the soil. Zaynab was asleep still, curled into a borrowed blanket, with a stuffed animal one of the other children had given her. Her mouth was parted slightly, cheeks flushed, a faint smile trembling across her face. She had begun to laugh against. More shy laughs at silly things. It was like watching a flower open after a long, bruising winter. Lena stood in the doorway, behind him. "It's happening," she said. "The article is making noise. A lawyer from DC wants to speak with you. Someone who actually fights this stuff in court. You have a real chance, Jamal." They're listening now. But Jamal didn't smile. His eyes remained fixed on the trees beyond the window, on the world still wrapped in mist. "They're only listening," he said slowly, "because they didn't expect us to speak." Lena didn't argue. She knew he was right. They spent the day preparing. The lawyer called over Vidian, older man with glasses, in a voice like gravel, but a kindness in his eyes that reminded Jamal of his father. He asked careful questions, never pushing. He already knew most of the story. Now, he needed to know how they had survived. Jamal answered every question. Zaynab sat quietly beside him, holding his hand. She didn't flinch this time. When the lawyer asked her what she wanted most, she replied, "To be with my brother, forever. And maybe a cat." Jamal laughed, then really laughed, for the first time in weeks. It startled even him. The legal process would take time, the lawyer said. It always did. But with the public pressure building and their case becoming a symbol, the government was already softening. Their file had been flagged for revaluation. Not yet a promise, but a shift. The same system that had once reduced them to case numbers was now stumbling over its own silence. And for the first time, people were watching. They stayed in the network houses for another month. Jamal helped teach the other kids English, while Lena organized documents and court dates. Zaynab drew pictures of houses on hills, always with the sun, always with the door wide open. There were put a raid, a child, who was taken in the night from another shelter, but Jamal no longer felt like a leaf blowing in the wind. He had roots now, and people who stood with him. That changed everything. One morning, the phone rang. Lena answered, her face unreadable. Then she handed it to Jamal. "It's done," the lawyer said. "They've granted you and Zaynab temporary protected status. It's not permanent citizenship, not yet, but it's legal. You won't be separated, you won't be deported. You'll be placed with a sponsor family for now, one we trust. From there, we'll fight for asylum. You have a chance." Jamal, real one. His knees went weak. He sat down slowly. The phone still pressed to his ear. Unsure if he had heard it right. "We stay?" he asked. The word felt foreign on his tongue. Not run. Not hide. Stay. You stay. The lawyer confirmed. He hung up the phone and turned to Lena, who was already crying. Zaynab, still drawing by the table, looked up in surprise. "Ah, we going?" she asked. Jamal knelt beside her. He took the drawing from her hands and folded it carefully. "No," he said. "We're staying." Their sponsor family lived in Vermont, a quiet place with snow and pine trees and a school just down the hill. The couple, Mary and Thomas, had never had children of their own. They greeted Jamal and Zaynab at the bus stop with hugs, careful ones, like they knew trust had to be earned. The house smelled like cinnamon and fresh paint. There was a bedroom for Zaynab, with a stuffed cat on the bed, and bookshelves already filling up with stories waiting to be read. That night, after unpacking what little they had, Jamal stepped outside onto the porch. The stars were bright, sharp, as if the sky had been scrubbed clean. He thought of his father then, not in the way he had before, as a lost figure beneath the waves, but as a presence beside him. He could almost hear the words again. "You're the man now. Take care of her. I am." Jamal whispered. I will. Behind him, the door creaked open. Zaynab stepped out, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. She leaned against him, silent. What if they changed their minds again? She asked. He thought about it for a long time. Then we keep speaking, he said. Louder than before, until they don't get to forget us anymore. They stood there together in the quiet, two children who had walked through fire and sea and shadows. Not saved, not finished, but free, at last, to begin.